Finally, my good friend Kelvin Cochran, who saw this radical agenda coming all the way back in 2014 when he was fired as the fire chief for Atlanta, for the fire department there. He was fired for writing a devotional book for men, for his church, a Bible study group that he had. It was called Who Told You That You Were Naked? We call it Naked down in the South. But this was focused on basically morality for men. But it happened to have about a page, maybe a page, half a page, regarding homosexuality, and he was fired. Well, now he has a book telling that story, Facing the Fire, the faith that brought America's fire chief through the flames of persecution. Chief Kelvin Cochran joins me. Chief, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony. It's good to see you, my friend, and it's great to be with you on Washington Watch.
And I failed to mention you're now vice president over at our allied organization, ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom.
Yeah, isn't it just like God to create such a story where I was once a client and now a senior fellow and vice president. And so I'm just overjoyed about this opportunity, Tony.
Well, I want to hear more about that, but let's talk about the book. This is your story. Tell our listeners about it.
Yeah, Facing the Fire is a God-sized story, I call it. It's a testimony of the goodness of God and the faithfulness of God for his sons and daughters when they face the fire of persecution. It really tells an overview of what happened to me in Atlanta. But Tony, when I was terminated, like people that have a near-death experience say their life flashed before their eyes, my life flashed before my eyes. God showed me that from the time I was a little boy, he had been preparing me for that moment my entire life. So Facing the Fire is a walk of faith from how God prepared me from a child through my young adult years, through my experiences as a firefighter, being one of the first African Americans on the Shreveport Fire Department. I had several fires throughout my life that prepared me for the big Mama Jamma fire of being terminated, and how the faithfulness of God was with me. And I believe it'll encourage other believers.
Well, and that's just kind of like the story of David when he faced Goliath. It was being delivered from the paw of the lion and the bear that prepared him to face off with Goliath.
That's exactly right. And you know, Tony, I'm seeing that plays out in many of our biblical heroes and sheroes, that God uses earlier stages of challenges to prepare them for a major challenge. And it's playing out in my life, and I believe it's playing out in the lives of other Christians. God is equipping us as American believers to have the courage and grace to stand. And I'm grateful that my testimony can help to do that.
Well, Chief, I think it's very timely because as we were just talking about what's happening in public education, we know teachers, we know coaches right there in Loudoun County that have been terminated or fighting for their jobs because they've stood up to the same thing you did as the fire chief. They've said, look, I'm not going to lie to my children, the students that I have, using false pronouns or playing this game. And as a result, they've lost their positions. And so in fact, Alliance Defending Freedom is actually representing some of them, as you know. Did you ever think we would be at this point when you were squared off with the city of Atlanta, that it would get to this level?
No, I never thought, especially in the United States of America, Tony, that we would be at this level. We've heard the horrific stories of Christians being persecuted, far worse than American Christians are. But we never thought the scale that we're seeing it, even on this level, termination from your employment, losing your business, losing contracts, just for living out your faith. I never imagined that it would happen in our country. The truth of the matter is there are worldly consequences for standing on biblical truth and standing for Christ. But the part that most believers are not aware of is that there are kingdom consequences for standing on biblical truth and standing for Christ. And the kingdom consequences are always greater than the worldly consequences. But if we don't have the courage to stand like Tanner Cross and the other teachers in Loudoun County, we'll never see what the kingdom consequences look like if we don't have the courage and grace to stand.
That's good. Is that in the book?
Yes, that's in the book.
I hope so, because if not, you missed it. That was so. Let me ask you that question. And we've had many, many conversations, and I was down in Atlanta right after that thing blew up there for you, because I admired the courage that you have shown. But it's not been an easy journey. It's been a difficult journey. Knowing what you know now, having experienced what you experienced, would you do anything differently?
I absolutely would not do anything different, Tony. And let me just express my gratitude to you for showing up at the Georgia State Capitol, that religious liberty rally, and standing beside me at that podium, appealing to Mayor Reed to put me back to work. Unfortunately, it did not inspire him to do that. But I'm so grateful even today for you standing beside me and being there. But the situation that we're facing today, of course, cancel culture was new on the scene when I was terminated, but it's increased at such an alarming rate that many Christians are afraid to live out their faith for fear of the consequences that they might face. It's really an occupational hazard to be openly Christian today in the United States of America. But I believe what we're seeing is a groundswell of common, everyday teachers and firefighters and common people who stand firm on their convictions, rising up together in unity. And I believe that's going to turn things around in the community of faith here in the United States.
I think you're absolutely right. Courage breeds courage. That's why I'm so glad you've written this book. Tell our listeners how they can get a copy of it.
You can obtain a copy of Facing the Fire on Amazon, Books A Million, those common online outlets, and kelvincochran.org is my website. You can also access a copy and even additional information about Facing the Fire on my website, kelvincochran.org.
Chief, always great to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate you.
All right, bro.